Check one, check two. I think we are moving here. Recording, audio, sound. All right, looks like we are good. Hello, welcome. My name is Alexander Booth. I'm the head program instructor and head facilitator for the IBM Data Analytics Bootcamp or Data Analytics Professional Certification. It's a little 10-week mini bootcamp that we're working through here that will lead to a professional certificate at the end of it. This is your week two live session. So the week two lecture. This is a little bit recorded late into the session. So I was actually brought in as I don't know what the description is. I guess I came in as instructor in about week five or week six or so here. So if you check our playlist, we have a whole playlist of all of our lectures so far. We're actually wrapping up the last couple weeks of the boot camp this week, but I want to make sure that we have a full history for everybody. The original instructor had to pull out for a medical emergency, so you got me instead. But it's been a fun month and a half or so since I've been with y'all. I think my first week was really week six here, but we've already back recorded lectures for week five, week four, and week three, which are all applicable to the capstone project that we're currently working on. But if you're just starting and joining us at the beginning of the boot camp and you're just following along on YouTube or Zoom, then great. Thanks for joining. Thanks for having you along. Our week two is giving us a foundation of just kind of expanding off of week one. Again, week one, if I haven't recorded that lecture or if I haven't uploaded it yet. Week one is thinking like a data analyst. What does it mean to be a data analyst in the 2026? What do we need to do? What tools are out there? How do we start approaching problems in a data-driven way? And today, week two, we're going to be focusing on spreadsheet analytics. So using your Google Sheets, using your Excel, starting to get data, starting to look at it, identifying patterns, and massaging it in a way that can lead to actionable insights. In the week one live session, which I will record here soon, and we're just going backwards. I will do the kind of run through of our online campus, but we'll jump into week two here. So, kind of my goal for today, we'll walk through the media sets. We got a couple activities that we're going to do, and of course, I have my big ideas and our quiz at the end. So hopefully it'll be a tight hour or so, and then we'll get after it. Now, if you're curious, I've already actually gone through the materials for week two and put everything into my GitHub earlier in the week. So you see, we actually do have a few activities here. We have kind of multi-step labs in 2.2, 2.4, 2.7. So we got a few different labs to work through here. I don't think I'll have time to do all of them. We'll make sure to hit 2.8, which I think is the cap or the keynote example for the live session today. Like I mentioned, this is Excel basics for data analysis. We're going to work with our first hand data tool, the spreadsheets. We'll work on Excel on the web from the ground up. We'll be writing formulas, functions, cleaning some data, building some pivot tables, all that good stuff. So, yeah, like I mentioned, let's see. I guess we'll get into the point of some of this here in a sec, but let's just kind of dive into it. I don't have too much in the slides. Yeah, mostly just kind of getting started here. And I do have our learning outcomes that we'll tie back to in the GitHub now before we jump into the online campus. So, like I said, the learning outcomes for the week, you need to understand the basics of spreadsheet applications, including how to navigate them and keyboard shortcuts. Demonstrate how to work with data in Excel or Google Sheets using formulas and functions. Understand the importance of data quality, data privacy, and data ethics. With great power comes great responsibility, right, as data analysts. So lots to do here. Sorry, my hair is just crazy today, apparently. Discuss apply data cleaning methods to remove duplicates, inaccuracies, etc. We're going to learn how to automate a lot of that in Python in a few weeks' time. Using data analysis techniques discussed in weeks one and applying pivot tables in Excel. So it should be a fun week. But like I said, in our goal for this week, understanding why spreadsheets matter. Again, spreadsheets are everywhere, whether you like them or not. They are everywhere. Low barrier to entry and high reach. Even non-technical stakeholders know how to make their way around a spreadsheet. Stakeholders typically already have it open, so just meet them where they are. Easy to do fast exploration by sorting, filtering, and pivoting your data sets. And you can usually fairly quickly find duplicates, inconsistencies, and preparing data. Again, really the cons on spreadsheets is just automation and scale. Sometimes things become too complex in terms of your data cleaning and data transformations. Maybe we want to automate it to happen before we even show up to work at 9 in the morning. Maybe we want to have too many rows that fit into an Excel spreadsheet, like more than 1.5 million rows or something. And yeah, I said working in spreadsheets though, they allow you to take raw data into actionable, readable, analyzable tables and data products. Again, it's going to be a big theme as we work through the rest of the cohort. Analyze questions in a formulaic way and try and find data quality problems that otherwise would lead to wrong conclusions. Like I said, we got 7 labs. I don't know if we'll have time to run through all of them, but we got our 7 labs here, plus 2 8, which is the big data set one. So we're going to go through spreadsheet foundations, formatting data, formulas and functions, data cleaning, filtering, sorting, pivot tables, and data privacy. So should be a fun week here. And I already got the downloads and our big ideas and key takeaways. So hopefully you've already set up your Excel for the web. If you already have Microsoft Office, then yeah, you can use Microsoft Office, but you can actually use Excel on the web for free if you sign up with a Microsoft account or if you just make a Microsoft account. So hopefully you already have done that. I've already done it. I have my little Microsoft account and I don't have Office. You can see it's telling me to buy it and I'm not going to buy it. But I can at least kind of create some blank workbooks and play around with Excel for the web, which is awesome. And again, big idea from this week as well. Don't really memorize anything. I'm always anti-memorization, so definitely don't memorize Excel formulas or function names or anything. But try to stick with the big ideas. How do we start taking raw, messy data? How do we start taking that and applying data analytics principles and turning it into actionable decisions? And then from there, how do we start understanding the limitations of spreadsheets, especially in terms of, as I mentioned, automation and scale? We want to set up a workflow that'll transfer directly to more advanced and robust data analytics tools such as Python, SQL, and advanced business intelligence reporting. All right. Well, there you go. But you can't take a data analytics class and not know what a VLOOKUP is. So there we go. That's what we'll be doing today. All right, so hopefully we'll navigated to the online campus. Again, if you have access to it, great. If you don't, I have all the instructions and labs in my GitHub. And kind of what we're going to be doing here, we're going to be working to start way through the modules and media sets and then running through some labs. So let's get after it. We'll start with the first one, Unit 1 here, data analysis using spreadsheets. So we have some video watch here. Again, you can watch them on your own time if you have access to the campus. And again, like big ideas is how do what are the pros? What are the benefits of using spreadsheets, right? And obviously, it's a lot better to use spreadsheets than manual tooling. And again, because they're so ubiquitous, they're essentially meeting stakeholders where they are with tools that they all already used. So, I got a few videos here running through how to do short spreadsheet basics, as well as the advantages of using tools. Again, like a big idea here from this person. Excel can take what seems like unmanageable data, but you can take it, massage it, filter it, and sort it, and aggregate it to get actionable insights. Again, maybe as a academic or as a data professional here, I'm always like, God, it's so ma even using a spreadsheet to me is so manual. Sure, I'm not actually digging out my TI-89 calculator, but it's still so manual, like typing stuff in and doing stuff. And we'll eventually see that kind of when you get to Python and we can automate a lot of these workloads, it's going to make your life a lot faster and a lot more efficient. So yeah, we got some more videos here working through how we can start applying Excel functions and a quick introduction to the platform. And I think that'll take us to our first activity. I would say that a core capability of spreadsheets would be statistical analysis. Selling stocks. Correct. Well done. All right, we'll skip over that. That's obviously like not the real quiz. All right, let's do our first Hello World spreadsheets, our activity here in 2.2. You'll notice that we have 4 labs here. We won't, I guess we'll kind of run quickly through all of them. These should all be pretty quick since we already have our account set up. So again, if you haven't already signed up for an account, I have all the instructions in my GitHub. but you need to create a Microsoft account, verify your email, and then you should be able to access Excel on the web. I had to go to a different link. I use this one, excel.cloud.microsoft, which takes me directly to the Excel interface. And then to create a workbook, it's the same idea. You can click blank workbook and open up a workbook. And if you wanted to show how we can open up one, I guess I'll show you that here as well. We can download this workbook here, Indian Startup Funding Lab 1. We can go into our Excel for the web, upload a file. I can go grab that spreadsheet and automatically open for go Indian Startup Funding Lab. Here, a giant spreadsheet with 112 rows here. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. All right, that's actually lab one. High five. Great job. If you're able to log into your Excel cloud and upload a spreadsheet, you are in great shape. I don't think I put some of these Excel spreadsheets in here. I didn't. I'll go through and as we work through the labs, I'll make sure that the Excel spreadsheets are backed up in my GitHub as well. Let's move into lab two here. This is going to be some more Hello World introduction spreadsheet basics. So let's get to work and work through it. I think we already have I think they want us to, yeah, there we go. I'm just going to jump straight into exercise two here. This is the same this is the same workbook, but I guess we'll just upload it anyway. So let's actually re-up, whoops. Wrong button. I'm going to upload lab 2 here, so I'll just grab that lab 2 workbook. And now we should be able to follow along with exercise 2 here. So as we open up our workbook, you're going to notice that we can go around the ribbon, file, home, insert formulas, and we can kind of get more acquainted with Excel. So you'll see file allows us to create copies, print, download, open, save things. The home tab is going to have everything that's our normal view. Insert, that's where we can start inserting images, visualizations, which we'll do in week 3, as well as pivot tables. We can share the workbook. We can change the page layout. We have our formula helper. This is a pretty cool little toolbar that allows us to quickly find specific functions that we may want to use. And honestly, with Excel, there's so many functions that you can never really remember all of them. So let's say we wanted to play around with dates. Here we can extract dates, hours, months from strings or date time type cells, right? Same thing with aggregations and sums. Data, this allows us to sort and filter. That's what I use this the most for. You may also use this to split text to columns or remove duplicate rows. So a lot of good, helpful data shortcuts on the data tab. We can look at history over time and we can change how our view looks. And I think that's about it. We got some tutorials. We can get a pencil on here if we want to, but I think that's good enough. What we're gonna do here, yeah, to move around a page, yeah, you can use your mouse, you can use your keyboard, doesn't really matter to me. These are some fun shortcuts. I'll show you a couple. Let's see if we go. If I'm clicking like A2 and I do control down, that takes me to the very bottom of the workbook. Control up takes me all the way back to the top. I use that a lot. Same thing with control side to side. You can move your little uh, selector all around your spreadsheet just by doing that. I use those a lot. I don't really use control end or control home, but the control and the arrow keys are a good little shortcut. We can highlight data. We can highlight data just by dragging our selector across multiple places, right? Oh, and then we'll work through the keyboards. Select all your data, select any cell in the data, and then Control A. So yeah, we can just grab stuff like this. Yeah, Control A says Control Select All. So if I do Control A here, it's going to select my whole spreadsheet. And then you can press Escape to get rid of that too. So looks pretty good to me. What else are we doing? I guess that's it. I told you these labs are pretty easy. Maybe we will get through most of them. Um, let's see. If we wanted to, we can combine our little keyboard shortcuts. So if I grab some things and select it, I can do Shift to the right, and that'll start highlighting additional columns. Then the left arrow unselects them. Down arrow selects more rows. Note that Control doesn't do that. Control just moves my, whoops. Oh my God, we're at the all the way at this end of our spreadsheet. Hopefully it doesn't undo. But yeah, so you got to use shift to kind of select things. So select selects things or shift selects things while control moves you around the spreadsheet. All right, that takes us to the end of lab two. That's what we're flying here. All right, let's go through the third lab here, which again, I'm sure is expecting me to re-download it. Cool. We'll re-download lab three and we'll upload it. Whoops, where did my Excel for the web go? All right, let's upload a file. And we're gonna upload lab three here. Yeah, this should be the same data for these startups that we've been playing around with so far. So for lab, we can wants us to select F20 to H26, and then we can zoom in to look at these things, and then we create our free sections. Yeah, I'm not gonna, don't think I'll, probably not gonna do all the formatting stuff. All right, yeah, we'll go through the freeze frame here. Why not? So what we're gonna do here, we want to select F20 to H26. So let's go find F20, boop, and we're gonna select all the way to H26. I'm gonna use the keyboard shortcuts as we showed. So boop, 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 boop. I'm using my shift and my arrow keys here. Then we can do Control plus. Whoops, what did that do? Oh, that created new columns. So Control plus and Control minus created new columns for me. You can see if we can zoom in. I'm going to hold Control and zoom. Well, zooming in on my mouse allows me to zoom in on it. So yeah, Control and zoom on my mouse allows me to zoom in on that section. And then from there, it wants us to create a freeze pane for it. So we can go to View, Freeze Pane, Freeze at Selections. So let's go to do that. View, freeze pane, and we'll freeze at selection. Cool. So now we've kind of locked in this little section down here. And you'll see as I scroll down, like the section that I'd selected is at the top here. You'll see that is locked in, which is kind of interesting. So this can be useful for some situations. Yeah, you'll see that. Oh yeah, let's freeze the first column. I think that's way more useful. So let's unfreeze panes. So let's do the first one, which is if I select column, I'm just going to click into A1 and let's go to freeze pane and I'm going to go freeze first column. What this does is that as I scroll to the right, you'll see that column A stays still, right? It stays frozen and I get to see everything. And quickly I can see that, yeah, number 17 here spent $231 million. I don't have to constantly like switch back and forth to looking at that first column with an ID and maybe some other data value here over to the right. Some of the rest of this stuff, you have to freeze the first row and the first column. We can do that too. If I go into the freeze frames, we can also freeze the top row. And this is my column header, right? So you'll see that the column headers are frozen. And if you want to do both at the same time, we need to, I guess, highlight them all, right? To freeze both the top row and the first column at the same time, select cell B2 and click freeze at selection. All right, let's do that. Unfreeze pane. I'm gonna select B2 and then we'll go freeze at selection. Yeah, there we go. So you'll see now when I scroll down, my columns are still frozen, and when I go to the right, my first column is frozen. So pretty cool. One good way to quickly freeze your column headers and maybe your first ID row. All right. I'm not going to walk you through the formatting. You can do that one in your own time in creating your own spreadsheet. Let's, I guess I'll Excel files for you. Put those in my GitHub a little bit later. Last little hello world activity for Excel is our introduction to functions. Oh my God, I lost my Excel again. Oops. So over here, yeah, we're gonna do our intro to functions, and I guess we're gonna be going into that personal modified document that we already did in Lab 3. But I'm just gonna go ahead, upload it, and we'll upload our personal monthly expenditure Lab 4. So our goal here is to do some basic functions to interact with our budget. So we'll see here that we can create a new row called totals. By the way, if you're not paying attention, now is the time to start paying attention. This is like real Excel spreadsheet stuff. So let's create a new row here. I'm going to call it totals, and totals is going to be equal, and then we're going to use the sum function. And now I can either type in the range, which in our case would be B2 to B13, or I can highlight them. So I'm going to highlight them so it has B2 to B13 and hit enter. And we see here that the total sum is $9,600. Pretty cool. No, we can then drag and drop this all the way across our spreadsheet and it'll automatically fill in for us, which is very nice. So you see, let me grab onto this. You see this little green box? My icon changes from a white plus sign to a black one. And then from there, I can drag across. And you'll see here that health and fitness ends up being about $760 a month. Let's create a new column. A new column is going to be called a monthly total. And this is going to be the same thing. What we're going to do here is that we're going to sum horizontally across the rows. So let's go ahead and do that. Equals sum, and in our case, I'm just going to highlight it again. B2 shift G2. And yeah, it was a little bit excessive, but it worked. Um, Maybe I'll just type it in. We'll do B2 colon G2. Boom. There we go. So our full cost for the month is 1670. And we can see that our total monthly total is going to be 19,820. So our total cost across the whole year is about 20,000 pounds. All right, so now we're going to do some aggregation leaderboards here. We're going to do average, min, max, count, and median. And I'm going to get some other ones that you can play around with as well in terms of functions. All right, so let's go fill in this leaderboard. A16 to A20. We're gonna do average, I already forgot. Min, max, count, median. Min, max, count, and median. And then we're gonna fill in our little leaderboard here. We're gonna try and get the average of B2 to B13, and then we're gonna drag it to G16 to copy the formula. So this is gonna be equal to AVG, and then we're going to select B2 to B13. Oh, it did not like that. Oh, we have to spell out average. That's me with a brain fart. There we go. Average. Enter. And our average is 800 pounds. And we can drag that across all the way for our average health and fitness, which is 63 pounds. Cool. So now we're going to do this for min, max, count, and median. So this is going to be equal to min of B2 to B13. And then we can spread that all the way across. This will be max. So isn't this a lot faster than digging out your calculator as well? Like, it's still a little bit manual as we have to drag and click and type and stuff, but it's still a lot faster than um, doing this manually, right? Or manually counting anything. Notice that count just counts the number of rows. We didn't actually spend 12 pounds in anything. That's just the number of observations that we have. So same idea here. Oh my God, out of my life, little documentation. And we see that, yeah, our median food and dining is 400, while our average is about 401. So there's no crazy outliers here. That's something you can quickly use to compare. Hashtag data analyst alert. If your average and median are about the same, it means your data is fairly normalized without any excessive outliers or skew. All right, so that's a beautiful little table that we built here. Let's keep going. In the next exercise, you'll learn how to reference data in formulas, specifically differentiating between relative and absolute references. All right. In cells A31 to A40, type 1 to 10. All right, let's go do that. A31 to A40. We're going to type the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's what I want, right? Great. And we want to select rows 31 to 40, and we want them to be general. So we can do that. So I'm just going to select row 31 to row 40. We can go to on the home tab, click the number formats. I always do this by right clicking. Oh, there we go. It is already general. Number format general. That's what we want, right? Cool. So it is already a general. We can make it a number if we really wanted to, but that turns it into a decimal. So let's just set that back to a general number. Cool. So I think we're ready to go here. We're going to fill out our relative, absolute, and mixed. So let's do that. This will be in the same row now above it. So let's do, oh, whoops, B30. Relative, absolute, and mixed. All right, so now over here, what we're going to do is in B33, we're going to type A31 plus A32. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's go to B33. We're going to type in A31 or equals A31 plus A32. Don't forget your equal sign, otherwise it will not work. And we'll see here that this brought in 1 and 2. But as I drag this down, you'll see what's happening here. 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 15, 17. It's changing. We're going A31, A32, then 32 plus 33, then 33 plus 34, then 34 plus 35, et cetera, all the way down. So that is kind of a lot. So everything, notice that everything is changing each time, right? Let's do an absolute reference. So in C33, we're going to do this equation. Notice that we're doing double dollar signs. So our equation is A31, which is locked with dollar signs, then A32, which is locked with dollar signs. This is an absolute reference. This means when I change the cell, it's going to stay the same, right? Everything is locked. A31 is locked and A32 is locked. So my formula for each of these cells is the same. We're just adding those two numbers, and we'll see that we have the same result each time here. Finally, we can do a mixed reference. So notice we're not quite locking it in with dollar signs. This is going to go in, yeah, D33. We're locking the first one in. So notice that my first one is completely locked, but my second one, only the dollar sign A is locked, which means that we're locking the column, but not the row. So you'll see here that we should be able to do 1 plus 2 equals 3. Where's my 3? What the heck? I think I'm messing up in the cell. Let me delete the cell. And then let's try that again. Equals dollar sign A, dollar sign 31 plus dollar sign A 32. And we should get 3 there, right? But when I drag this, you're going to notice that 1 is locked. So 31 is locked, but my other ones are changing, right? They're going and just incrementing by 1. 1 plus 3, 1 plus 4, or 1 plus 4, 1 plus 5, whatever, right? All the way down. Almost done here on this exercise. Last warm up here. We can throw errors, and you'll see errors all the time with like these hashtag values. So let's just go to B31 here, and I want us to type in equals A16 plus A17. And when I do that, it throws this value error. It says, hey, this isn't a real value. And if I hover over it, it gives me an error message, or it should. Where's my error message? There you go. Error in value. A value used in the formula is of the wrong data type. And that's because they're both null. They're both empty. We cannot add two empty numbers. We could open the help bar for this if we really wanted to. Again, this is very common. Like Excel has very vague errors and honestly some vague error messages. So we can either ignore the warning or we can go look at the documentation. Again, this little help opens up here on the right, and it should give us some assistance. How to correct this, right? So as Excel is a way of saying there's something wrong with your formula or something wrong with what you're referencing. So we have a lot of options here on how to help and get help and have this little as native assistant inside of Excel, which is nice. All right, and I think that completes our intro to Excel lab. So awesome. I think I'll actually download this one because we actually did some edits to it. Export, download. Oh, I guess I can't export it as a spreadsheet. Womp womp. I guess we'll export it as a PDF. Why not? That way you can see my beautiful work that I did. Uh, sure. Grid lines, missing column headings. I don't know. What a beautiful spreadsheet. All right, I guess we'll just do that and download. Boom. All right, cool. So let's move on here. I think we won't, we'll probably have to skip over a few of these. Let me make sure 2.8, yeah, is our big activity that we need to cover. What time is it? Almost 7 o'clock. All right, we may go through a few things here. Let's go look at Unit 2. That's the one that comes up next. This is some of the important. This is an important mini section within Module 2 here. Again, whenever we're interacting with data, you always need to be observant of its policies, right, as well as privacy and ethical concerns, right? Like personal identification information or PII, the right to have your data deleted, kind of with GDPR and COPPA, right? There's a lot of regulations and HIPAA, a lot of regulations in place. That's medical data. A lot of regulations in place for what you should do and who should be interacting and what you should be doing kind of with the data that you have access to. So as we kind of were looking at here, right, we'll watch a couple of videos on this topic. So again, definitely go look at information around data privacy and the importance of data quality. Again, you'll hear me say this a lot, garbage in, garbage out. If you have bad data in and you have skew, bias, or poor integrity in your data, then your results, your recommendations, your leaderboards are all going to be skewed as well, right? So we got some good videos on this around the right to privacy and the importance of data quality. We have another video on how to do some data cleaning in Excel. Yeah, there's some good ways to do it. Some flash fill and text to things, right? And understanding when your data is actually bad. So you got some good videos here to watch. Again, what are the fundamental principles of data privacy? We're looking for three: confidentiality, collection and use, and transparency. That's also why whenever you go to websites now, they're gonna ask you, hey, can we collect your cookies and things? Basically, because we have different tracking for you, and companies need to be very transparent about the data that they're collecting on you. Let me just quickly check and if I want to do one of these labs or if we'll just jump into I think I want to do 1 and 2.7 and then one on the capstone. And the data formatting, I think we'll kind of skip over that one. Yeah, data functions and pivot tables. All right, we'll see how we do. I'll at least download the data set for this, I guess, as we go. So yeah, in the first activity here, what you're going to be doing is cleaning data. So I'll download the lab for you. But again, you're going to be going through. We're going to see that we have some typos here in American Express. So what we can do is a control find, where we can check the spelling and we can try and make sure that everything is locked in correctly. We can delete empty rows. There's another pretty popular one. Essentially, what we're doing, right, is that we're filtering just to where the name is blank. That leaves us with empty rows, and then we can right click and delete them. Similar deal with delete rows, right, or with deleting duplicates. There's actually a plugin now in for Excel that I kind of showed you. Uh, you could just delete duplicate rows. But another option is to use a function. So what we're doing is that we're highlighting where rows are duplicated, and then from there we can highlight everything and click the remove duplicates button, which is pretty nice. I already talked about find and replace, and yeah, some other ones for inconsistencies, especially in strings. You got a lot of string helper functions. We can uppercase or proper case functions. We can uppercase all of our text. We can lowercase all of our text. We can change our data formats and date formats and accounting formats with the data type as well. And then we can also use the trim function or the trim find and replace to get rid of extra white space. Yeah, a lot of good stuff. Again, this is mostly like for string cleaning, so that's just text, like emails and things like that. So I like being able to use the left and right to quickly truncate or like search and alter data, right? I think that's a good one. All right. Uh, keep, we'll keep going. You have your class-wide discussion. Definitely participate. I think your discussion prompt for the week is pretty interesting. Um, so you don't know what Keith was putting on here. Just some troubleshooting stuff. Yeah, I don't think he was able to actually maintain the week. But we can see that we got some good discussion points here going on. Again, mostly around data quality, data errors, and ethical concerns. So yeah, it's like there you go, Arno. Garbage in, garbage out. I'm gonna say that a million times today, right? Yeah, there's some good stuff around ethical concerns on outliers and overcleaning and actually removing signal from your data, which is actually a good point by Michelle here. Sometimes we can get a little bit overzealous in our data cleaning, and we actually end up losing signal. That's something you hear a lot with outliers, that a lot of outliers are actually real, right? They're real observations, and sure, they could skew your average, but if they're a real observation, then there's signal, right? Something actually happened to make this value so different. And maybe that in and of itself is a pattern or a signal for something that we should be taking a larger look at as a data analyst. All right, let's keep moving on here. Let's go into kind of the going into Unit 3. Unit 3 introduces some specific functions for data analytics. I think we will live do 2.7 here. This is where we can analyze, filter, and sort data, which is very important in terms of a data analyst. And we see why it's so useful when interacting with Excel and other spreadsheets. Quickly allows you to see what rises to the top, what rises to the bottom, what are some large values, what are some small ones, as well as VLOOKUPs, which allows us to quickly look up in almost like a proto database or proto data table different values. So, given my car's a Corvette, I want to look up the price of it in this table, right? So, I think these are some important functions, which is why I am going to go ahead and do that one. 2.8, though, is going to be all about pivot tables and aggregations, which are also important, but we'll do them in the caps in the keynote activity here, which I guess is 2.8. What are we in right now? 2.7. I guess 2.7 has two parts to it. What are the two parts? I thought we'd do filtering and sorting and pivot tables. Okay, so yeah, we'll get to 2.8 in a minute. But yeah, we'll do just the first half of 2.7 here. What are some use cases for pivot tables? Pivot tables are really good for aggregations, right? So grouping, sorting, and aggregating into some kind of a leaderboard, right? How do you take a large data set, for example, client audits, and group and aggregate in a way to make that large data set a lot more meaningful, right? By finding the clear, actionable insights to take from it, right? On who's at the top of the leaderboard, who's at the bottom, and kind of what patterns do we see by looking at those multiple aggregations. So you'll see here that we've been able to group by these different country or continents, right? Uh, North America, Japan, Europe, and Africa, Asia, and then Asia Pacific. And we can see the different sum of sales. So we've done a group by sum, right, to aggregate the numbers or the sales behind those different groups. Um, let's see here. So let's get straight into the activity here, 2-7. If you're curious, when sorting, you can sort Z to A, which is like alphabetical. Let's just do the first one. I guess, like I said, I'll grab the data set for both of them, though, while we're here. So let me grab the data set for 270. And we're not going to do lab 7. You can do that. I'll leave that as an exercise for the reader. But I will make sure that we cover pivot tables in the last capstone activity. All right, so let's go look at filtering and sorting and some useful functions, including VLOOKUP here. So I'll see how fast we can go do this. Let's pivot over. I think we're doing pretty good. We did labs 1 through 4, lab 6, and then lab 8. So we're only not doing, we're doing 5 out of the 7 labs. All right, so let's get into it. Let's go upload lab 6 here, which is going to be our customer demographics. So in my spreadsheet here for customer demographics, you see this is a real data set. Oh my gosh. We have customer first name, last name, gender, address, city. So again, if we were thinking about data ethics, we shouldn't just have everybody's credit card numbers, social security numbers, and emails, right? Like we don't just want that floating around public spreadsheets. So definitely something to be careful of as we're looking at this data. But yeah, let me do control down, which takes me to the bottom of my spreadsheet. We have 195 rows. Control right, or we'll go all the way control right. Maybe I need to be in the first row. I thought we got all the way over to B2 here. Control right. Yeah, there we go. BL. So that's a lot of columns. I don't even know how many columns that is. Many columns is BL in Excel. We'll see how the A does. 64. We got 64 columns and almost 200 rows. So do a little bit of math here. 65, I guess I could have done this in Excel. But we have 12,800 cells of data, which may sound like a lot. And for Excel, it is a lot. But I will tell you that that is nowhere near a lot of data. And again, this is one of the limitations that we'll get to with Excel. Sure, 13,000 rows or cells may seem like a lot, and for some data sets it is, but Excel can handle that pretty easily. But when we get into millions of cells, I have some data sets that are like 15 million rows by 300 columns. So when we deal with data that big, right, we obviously can't use Excel for it. And you'll see that typically we need to end up with automation and pipelines. Every night, I want to pull in new customer data and then do aggregations to it, right? Anyway, let's keep going with our project here. Our first goal is to select any cell in the data, click on the data, click filter. And we want to go to AG and we want to filter only to frequent customers. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go across all the way to AG. We'll click on the column title. We'll go data, filter, and I'm going to filter this down to only be frequent. So we'll uncheck select all, and then we'll check frequent and hit apply. Um, awesome. From there, it also wants us to filter on purchase. Oh, clear filter. It wants to clear the filter. And then it wants us to do another one. All right, well, let's see how we do. So we'll see that we filtered only to purchase. And if I scroll down and see it's not very many rows. If you're wondering how many rows it actually was, if I click into the first cell, hold shift, and then click the last one, and I check the bottom, we'll see that says 1 rows of 194 records. So we filtered down to only 51 rows. Or I guess it already said that anyway. We didn't actually have to highlight them. All right, next to clear the filter, we can just right click on it. I guess not. What did it tell me to do? Oh, just click filter. So we'll click the filter and then we'll go clear filter and that brings us back to normal. The other way to do that is just to click on it and then just select all again in the filter. Next, we'll go to AE and we're going to filter only to canceled and then AF only to desktop. So let's do that. In AE, we're going to go to only to canceled. So uncheck, select all, check canceled. Note we can also add text filters about the text or strings containing certain substrings. And then in AF, we're going to filter this down to desktop and then hit apply. And we see we're down to 5 rows here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we can see they're all baby boomers, apparently. To clear all the filters, we can go back to the data tab and just click on clear filter, wherever that is. Filter, clear. Boom. Love it. Doing good here. Let's see what else we got. Oh yeah, we can do some numerical filters. We'll try that. So let's go into AD, which is the order value, and we're going to give this a numeric filter. So we're going to go to between. So I want to show where order value is between 10 to 50. And hit OK. And there we go. We filtered our row down to 100 rows of 194, where the order value was between 20 and $100. Cool. And then, yeah, we can clear that filter. All right, pretty cool. We can do some sorting stuff. Let's see. We can do a custom sort. So let's just do that. On the data tab, we're going to click on custom sort. I guess we can get rid of the filter. Custom sort. All right, there we go. So we get rid of the filter. I'm going to click on custom sort. And what it wants us to do here, it wants us to first sort by order ship date ascending. So let's go find that. Order ship date ascending, and then add. And then we're going to sort by order value descending. So we're going to get the oldest rows, and then if there's multiple rows on the same day, we're going to order them by the most expensive order. And there we go. Let's see if that worked. January 3rd, 2016, we have multiple January 3rds, and they are ordered from most expensive at 250 to least expensive at 24. And we can see that as we scroll down, our data is sorted, where we have the whole year of 2016, which is awesome. Well, cool. Custom sorting is good. We like to do that. Let's see. Let's do some more functions here. Let's go select column AF, right click insert. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm also going to view my data a little bit. Let's see if I can go to, fine. I was going to like auto update all the columns, but it's fine. We'll do that a little bit later. Yeah, all right. So cool. Let's insert our new column here. We're going to insert one column to the right. We're going to call this complete. And then we're going to add in our little if statement. So this is our first foray into conditional statements. So this is a fun one. Essentially, we're going to have a conditional check. If something is there, if AE2 is complete, we're going to come back and say yes. If AE2 is not complete, we're going to say no. So this comes back as yes because AE2 is complete. If I double click this little green box, it'll automatically populate the rest of my column. And we'll see we got our first no here because yeah, the order was canceled. It wasn't completed. So that's cool. So this is feature engineering. We created a new column from nothing, and we did our first far into conditionals, conditional logic. Do something if something is true, otherwise do something else. And that's going to be something we're going to hound on in week 4 when we do our introduction to computer programming in Python. That video is already back recorded and posted, by the way. Cool. We can do a nested if statement, which is where we have multiple conditions. So we're going to create a new cell call after or new column after AE. I'm going to right click, insert new column to the right, and we're going to call this one order size. And this is going to be based off, oh God, what happened? Insert one column to the right. There we go. We're going to call this column order size if. Oh my God, we still haven't even started the capstone yet. Oh my God. Order size if. Why is that not there? I swear, sometimes Excel gets so funky. What? Maybe because it has white text, paste values. Nope, that's what it didn't work. All right, I guess we're typing it out. Order size. Where's that? Oh my God, what is happening here? All right, I'm just gonna delete this whole column. I told you, Excel. Insert one column to the right. I don't want this to say order size as an if statement. Great. What are we doing? Auto fit. All right, I don't know what's going on with this column. It's being dumb. All right, anyway, let's get into the if statement. There's going to be this nested if. I'm going to see here that we have if AD2, which is our order value, is greater than 300, I'll say large. Else, if it's greater than 100, it's medium. Else, if it's greater than 0, it's a small. So this comes back as medium because 250 is bigger than 100, but less than 300. And again, same dealio, we can expand that down. And now we have a multi-class classification, which we can also use as a filter, right? So we can now filter this. It's all coming together. Filter this, and I can only show my large options, right? And we have 5 rows that were over $300 that were grouped as a more than $300 in value. Pretty cool. All right. Let's see what's next. I still got 5 more. Oh God. We're gonna we'll try and do this. So yeah, so there's better ways of doing the nested if. So ifs, the ifs function is a better way to do it. It allows you to do it all without having to repeat all that nonsense of typing out everything. So we're gonna do order size ifs, and we'll bring over the function here. Basically, I don't have to repetitively write if all the time. If AD2 is greater than 300 large, else if it's implied 100, etc., etc. So it gives us the same answer, but it's less characters to write. And this is another important piece when we get into actually coding and writing real functions with code. The less characters, the more efficient the function is, the less repetitive you are, the better. That's more repeat, that's more best practice code. There's a principle in computer science called don't repeat yourself or dry, which basically implies of making your code as efficient as possible with the amount of code that you're writing. Um, I guess we'll leave the last ones as exercise for the reader, the count if and sums. You can also do a sum if, which basically allows you the same thing. Filter a range based on specific things and then add them up. So basically summing specific ranges for you. But I gotta run to VLOOKUPs because we're about to run out of time. So this looks pretty good. Again, I'll download this as a CSV for you if you really want to see how this looked in practice. Again, to the CSV, you lose all the functions and formulas. It only saves the raw text. Let me this new document that I wants us to grab, the Indian Startup Lab 6. From here, let's just do the VLOOKUP real quick. So we're gonna type VLOOK. Yeah, this is a lot. We're gonna in cells K2, L2, and M2. We're gonna type VLOOKUP startup name and amount in USD. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna scroll to the right, and here we go. We have some room over here to do our own work. So we're gonna do VLOOKUP in K2. Then we're gonna do startup name, and then oops, I guess startup name. And then the last one is going to be amount in USD. Hey. Um, and that's in K2, L2, M2. Awesome. So now we're going to bring over some data from C9 to C15. So let's go bring that data in. We're going to paste it in cell L3. C9 to C15. C9 to C15. We're going to copy that and we're going to shove that in L3. So we're just copying over these startups that we wanted to look for. And now we can do our VLOOKUP. So here's the VLOOKUP formula. Essentially, all we're doing here, we're going to be looking in a table, right? We're going to be looking up in a data table, right, in a spreadsheet, and or some selection of rows and columns. We're going to be looking for a value. So we're going to be looking up a name, right? We're going to be looking up a name, and then once we find the row or containing that name, we're going to be bring what value do we want to bring back, right? So in this case, we want to bring back column 7 from this table. Note that the first row is always where the VLOOKUP looks up, right? So that's why we're going to be selecting from C2, which should be the startup name column if things go right. Yep, perfect. So we're going to be looking up in the C column the name of our value of the name of our startup. So let's go ahead and just copy this over and we can try and work through what it's going to bring back. Because it's going to be bringing back column 7 starting in C2. So C is going to be column 1, 2, 3, 4. G is 5. H is 6 and I is 7. So we're going to be looking up this name in my table, bringing back column 7 in the table, which is going to be the amount in USD. So if all goes well, let's paste this in. We can see here that we're going to be looking up rain games in our table that we've specified our selection C2 to I113. And we're going to be pulling back column 7. The range lookup is always usually going to be false because we typically want to find an exact match for our value. And we can see here that our looked up value is this $50 million. And we can drag that down and look at that. We have this beautiful little table. And then we can even highlight these and I can change them to be a currency. So we can see we have the full dollar value now for these. So yeah, Paytm made $1 billion funding apparently. So good for them. Pretty cool. So big idea for VLOOKUPs. You're essentially looking up in a database table where a certain value is. If I had to translate this to SQL, select star or select amount in USD, right? Select column 7 from my table where C2, where the startup name equals Rain Games equals my L3. So yeah, VLOOKUP is just a simple SQL statement if you can think about defining it like that. Select column 7 from this table where the first column is equal to the value of L3. There you go. Who knew VLOOKUPs were so simple? HLOOKUPs are crazy. I've never done an HLOOKUP in my life. Just kidding. If your data, if for some reason is horizontal instead of a normal table, then you can use an HLOOKUP, pull out information from it. But like I said, to me that's a more obscure case. So you may see it in your life, but not today from me in my lecture due to time constraints. I'll leave it as an exercise for the reader. So if you're curious about HLOOKUPs, go out in the world and do HLOOKUPs yourself. All right. I feel like we're gonna be over an hour, and I said this would be a tight hour. Womp womp. As is tradition here. All right, so let's get into our capstone activity for week 2. We're going to be interacting with some real data sets, sales data sample, as well as an Excel spreadsheet. In the first half, we're going to be doing some sorting and filtering, looking for duplicate records. In the second one, we are going to be doing some aggregations and pivot tables. So we'll see how fast we can do this. Let's do the first option here for part 1. We're going to upload a file and we're going to upload our CSV. Luckily, Excel on the web should still be able to open that up in an Excel format. Looks pretty good. We got a whole bunch of rows. Oh my God, that's what I get for scrolling. I should have used, I'm lazy. Control down. 1,309 rows. Oh my God. And we have 25 columns because we go all the way to Z or to Z. So there you go. 1309 times 25. We have 32,000 rows or cells of data this time. So we've got over double, almost triple the amount of rows from our last big table. Cool. I just did a double click in the column names to have them extend out all the way. So looking pretty good here. There's ways to do this for like every column, but it's time for that. Country, territory, contact, last name, first name, deal size, territory. Boom. All right. I think that looks pretty good. Looks like this is from all over the world. Okay, pretty cool. Let's see, the Berkeley Gardens Brewery. Sounds pretty good. All right. Let's do some work here. Go on, product line. There we go. And then month ID. All right. So we should be able to do some work. What's the first thing that it wants us to do? Um, Save it as an Excel. Change the viewing and the tooltip to editing. Aha, view only. We're going to change that to editing. Boom. Convert. Cross your fingers. Hopefully it keeps all my column names with. Uh-oh. Oh my God, it worked. Well done. Good job, Excel. You did something for once. Excel spreadsheet. Huzzah. Cool. Next up, we adjusted the column widths already. High fives us. Good work. Use the filter feature to look for blanks and remove all empty rows. It doesn't look like there is any empty rows, but we can check. I'm going to go to order number, data, filter, and if I check the drop down arrow, there are no, if I scroll all the way down, yeah, there are no blanks. So we got no missing rows. So that's awesome. So nothing to worry about there. Next, it wants us to look for duplicate records. So again, we can clear off the filter. I'm pretty sure we just highlight everything and then we go to remove duplicates. So there we go. Select all columns. My data has headers and click OK. And no duplicate values found. So I don't know why it told us to do that when there were no duplicates and no missing values, but whatever. Sort the data in column A from smallest to largest. Click into A1. We're going to go to sort. We're going to sort ascending. And we see that our smallest value is 10103. Quick eye test, because you never want to trust computers. Oh, we do have an empty row. There we go. I guess now we can do some of our filtering. All right, let's see if this will work. Now we can try and get rid of some of our empty rows. Filter, and I want to filter on blanks. Where are my blanks? Blank. What? Where are my blanks? I don't know why it's not letting me identify the blank rows. Because there's one right here. That's definitely a blank row. All right, looks like we found a blank row. I guess I'll just quickly scroll through the rest of it. Not that like that would help. Oh, there's definitely a few blank rows in here. I wonder why it's not letting me find those. Status. Yeah, that's crazy. Let's maybe sort this largest to smallest. There's nothing in this row, right? That's crazy. I don't know why these rows are coming back. All right, well, if I highlight it, I can then delete it. Delete row 60. And I think we got that one other row at the bottom here. Yeah, there's one. So let's delete this row too. Boop. Again, I'm not sure why the blanks aren't showing up in my filter. Usually it would go to drop down filter and then select blanks. Yeah, there's another one. I wonder if my filter's just not taking into account everything. It's also hurting my finger. I can't scroll this much. So we deleted a few null rows. And again, just I guess for completeness here, let me remove the filter again. And then I'm gonna do a control A or control down. Whoops, I guess shift up. No. Oh my God. Why did it only take me to row 400? Oh, that's where my next blank one is. Let's delete that. We must have missed one. Control down. Okay, and then control up. Cool. So at least we got rid of all of our null values. That's a little life hack for you. If you go control down and it hits a blank row, then you can delete it. All right, so let's go to shift down or shift all the way. Shift end. No. I was trying to highlight my entire spreadsheet. Oh my God. I guess we'll just do it the old-fashioned way. Do shift down and then shift all the way over here. All right, now I'm gonna go to remove duplicates again, and we'll see if anything shows up. All right, so still no duplicates, but I guess we at least cleared out some of those null values. All right, what are we doing? Sort ascending. Oh, now we have our good values, 10100. That wasn't showing up before, so there we go. So it looks like we fixed our sort. Cool. All right, in column C, set the type as a number and format it to remove the decimals. So column C, we're gonna go to data, or we'll go to home, and we want this to be a number, and I want it to be a number with 0 decimals. Now, all I did is I clicked on more number options, more number formats, and I'm going to take the decimal places to 0. Well, so now everything should be rounded integers. In column E, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make this a number, and by default, this has 2 decimal places. Use the find and replace feature to remove all double spaces. So sure, Control A, Control F. We're gonna find and replace. I'm gonna do space, space, and then we'll see if we can find all. So it did find double spaces somewhere in the date column specifically. So we're gonna just replace with nothing, and let's click replace all. All right, remove all double spaces from the data. Whoops. I think we need to do replace with one space. So I'm just gonna do Control Z on that, and we'll try it again. Control A, Control F, replace double space, and we're gonna replace with a single space, and then replace all. Cool. And it matched 200, 2,871, basically every row in the order date column. Cool. So we smoothed that up a little bit, so that's nice. What's next? The contact name is divided into two columns. Use flash fill to reduce the names to just one column, and then remove any unnecessary columns. Yeah, so at the end here, we have the contact first name and the contact last name. How does I want to? I don't know what flash fill is, but let's just do. I'm just gonna. Here's how I would usually do it. Concat. We want to concatenate. We're gonna concatenate the first name and then empty space and then the last name, and then I'll hit enter. So this is Valerie Young, and then we can extend that all the way down, and we can just call this contact name. Oh my God, frick, flippin' Excel, contact name. All right, so that should finish up part one here. Sweet. I'm gonna go ahead and download this as a CSV again. And yeah, maybe I'll edit this one and say this was a live session. All right, cool. Next up, we're gonna be downloading same dealio here. We're almost done. Last activity, motivating myself. Cool. So again, we have, oh, that's not it either. Upload a file. We're gonna upload this part two, and we're gonna do some analysis here. Format the data as a table. Use AutoSum to find the following values for column E. All right, so for column E for sales, we want to also how to do this over here. Let's go ahead and just do that. So we need the sum, average, min, max, and count of sales. So we want this would be sum sales analysis. Look at me doing a table header. Sum, what else do we want? I already forgot. Average, min, max, and count. Average, min, max, count. And let's do median. Why not? All right, this would be equal sum of column E. You could just do E colon E. And then same thing for average equals the average of E colon E equals min of E colon E equals the max of E colon E equals the count of E colon E. Look at us doing analytics equals the median of E colon E. Boom. Beautiful. Love it. Format all these as numbers. We can even do more number format and give them 1,000 separator. There we go. All right, cool. So that's all of our sum of sales. I guess we could make these currencies actually. That would probably be better. Boom. So here's our sales analysis here. In total, we spent some $1.5 million in sales. The average sale was $4,500. The median sale was $4,100 or $200. So there's a little bit of skew. Our average is bigger than our median. There are a couple large sales, and we can see that our max sale is 12,000, which is quite a bit, three times the average or the median. So some of these larger sales are skewing our data. But again, just because they're outliers doesn't mean they're incorrect, as we talked about. That could be true signal in whoever was this person that ordered $12,000 of data. Let's just see who that is, because now I'm curious. It's the beauty of analytics. Be curious, right? Be curious about what the data is telling you. And I am pretty curious here. Who spent $12,000? Ooh, in process, classic car, the Euro shopping channel. They bought a $12,000 car in Madrid. So that's definitely a large deal. Pretty cool. So there you go. We're asking questions of our data. We're being curious and we're seeing some interesting results. Like maybe we should go find this Diego person and try and sell them a $15,000 car next time. Actionable insights. Rah. All right. What's next? Pivot table. Let's create our pivot table. So to create the pivot table, I am going to highlight all my data again. So A1, Control A, insert pivot table, and we're going to do this in a new worksheet, and I'm fine to bring over the whole table. All right, so for my pivot table here, it says that we want to display product line in the rows and quantity ordered in the values. So we're going to be grouping by product. I already forgot. Product line. Product line in rows. Or product line in rows, and then quantity ordered in values. Cool. And there we go, sum of values. So now you can see with this our group by aggregation. We've grouped by product line and then summed as our aggregation the amount ordered. So we can quickly see here, supposedly if I sort this, if I right click on it, if I right click up here, if I right click over here, sort, sort D. So I right clicked on A3 product line. Then I could go to sort descending. Womp womp. It's mad at me. Oh, there we go. If we go over here, sort descending. Boom. So classic cars at the top, then vintage cars, then motorcycles, planes, trains, and automobiles. All right. Duplicate the pivot table from task 3. Follow the same steps to create 2 more. So we need 3 more worksheets. And we want to create another one. Uh, I guess we just want to, I'm just going to copy this. Duplicate and duplicate. All right, so in sheet 1, 2 here, what we want to do next is add the status field to the rows so that we can do a group by aggregate on product line and status. So you'll see here, all I need to do is click on status and I can do add to rows. And so now we can see we have classic cars and their subgroups, right? So we have disputed, in process, on hold, and shipped. And then it wants us to collapse everything else but classic cars. So we can do that, and it looks something like this, which is pretty cool. So we have the breakdown of classic cars specifically, and while a majority are shipped, we see 104 of those are hold, and 88 canceled and 61 disputed. That's 149. Look at me doing mental math. So maybe that's something we can also look at as an actionable insight. Why are so many of these cars not actually being sent or followed through? And the last one, we're going to do status above product line. And so you're going to see we're going to do a different parent grouping here. So let's add status again as a row, but I'm going to drag it above product line. So now we're grouping by status and then grouping that by product line. So you'll see here that for canceled, we only have 2 product lines that have been canceled, classic cars and planes. But we can also quickly see that we have in total, how much is this? Um, 315 orders that have either been canceled or disputed. And again, we can sort these descending as well. Again, a mass majority already shipped or in progress, but maybe we need to figure out why these last 10% or something of our data hasn't gone all the way through, or how these orders haven't gone all the way through. Ask questions, drive decision making, right? That's the whole point of doing data analysis. All right, pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. So that takes us to the end of our activity. Huzzah. Go us. I'm gonna download a few of these pivot tables as PDFs, I think. I guess entire workbook. Let's see. I think the first one is too big, so I don't think we can do that. Yeah, there's all the data. So we only want to do active or current selection. I guess we'll do active sheet. All right, so we'll just download all of my little little pivot tables for you. So file, export as a PDF, and the last one is this guy. Cool. So that was pretty fun. Let's go through the quiz and our big ideas, and we'll close this out. Oh my God, it's gonna be an hour 20 again. All right, let's get after it. So that'll take us to the assessment quiz here. Again, hopefully in your learning outcomes, we should be able to explain the basics of a spreadsheet. We should show how to work in Excel using formulas and functions, talk about data quality, privacy, and ethics, apply data cleaning methods, use data analysis, and use pivot tables. So we also did a little bit proto coding here with our functions. Notice we did our if statements for conditionals. We did our pivot tables as group by aggregations. We did our VLOOKUPs as database references. So we're kind of getting into that idea of starting to think in the terms of big data with Python, SQL, automations, all that good stuff. Let's walk through the quiz because I know that's literally only why some people watch these on my students. So let's go ahead and do our quiz here just so you can make sure you can go back and fix this up on your own if you don't get it right. All right, 15 questions. What character do you type first when writing a formula, equal sign, equal sum? What is one of the functions found in the AutoSum drop-down list? Count numbers. An Excel desktop, what's one function category in the formulas tab? Analytical, I think. How do you make a cell reference absolute? You put the dollar signs around it. Formula errors are preceded by a hash symbol. What does it mean when multiple exists? The formula contains multiple errors. No, column isn't wide enough. I think that's what it is. Because we saw that when we had our date column, it was all hashtags. I had to make it wider. So I think it's not wide enough. What data quality trait can be summarized by asking if the data is necessary? Relevance. Again, a lot of people just collect data just for the sake of it, but how we're actually using that data to actually drive impacts and decisions. What data quality trait refers to availability and accessibility? I think reliability. I think so. We'll go with that. After importing a text file, how can you fix all the column widths at the same time? I guess, I don't know. Format, drag a divider across. I think it's B. We'll go with B. Select all the columns and double click one of them. What's one of the issues that empty rows cause in your spreadsheets? A lot of things. We ran into that. Formula errors. I think a lot of these, right? Formula errors will usually break. So I think that's the main one. Again, we're looking for the best answer on a lot of these quiz questions. There are two methods to locate and remove duplicate rows. The first one is conditional formatting, but the easier way is clicking remove duplicates, which we showed live. If you have multiple filters set, you can clear all of them by just going to clear. Difference between HLOOKUP, VLOOKUP, and XLOOKUP is how they look for data. VLOOKUP goes by column, HLOOKUP goes by row, and XLOOKUP goes in all directions. What is automatically added after formatting data as a table? Column headers, filter dropdowns, alternate light and dark rows. I actually don't know the answer to this one. We'll just Google it real quick. We'll see what bot has to say. D, filter dropdowns. There you go. When you filter a range of tables, it turns everything into a header row and embeds filter dropdowns. So that'll be. I was thinking A, but I guess we'll go D. After creating a pivot table, what pane appears on the right? I already closed the tab. I think it's the pivot table fields, hopefully. And what do timelines provide in pivot tables? They let you set the pivot table to an earlier view, I'm pretty sure. My God, we'll see how we do. This is me fumbling around Excel. Let's see how we did. I'm already nervous. I think we missed like three. Oh my God, we missed three. But we still passed. I'll take my 80. Let's see, which one did we miss here? The correct answer is lookup and reference. We didn't even do Excel desktop today, so I don't know why they asked us a question on it, but lookup and reference is one of the categories. Let's see, what else did we miss? Timeliness. Accessibility to me doesn't seem to do with timeliness. It seems accessibility to me is reliability, but I guess availability is timeliness. Could go either way here. I think technically timeliness and reliability are both correct, but we'll go with timeliness. And then we missed the last one. So select all columns, formula errors, remove duplicates, clear the filters, X lookups, add in the filter drop downs, pivot table fields. Timelines provide you to filter specifically on date related data. I guess that makes sense. I've never heard of that called timelines, but whatever. Maybe it is a timeline. All right, I think that takes us to the end of our quiz. Let's see, I got my big idea document. This is again already in my GitHub. Big idea for module 2 here. We're building out our spreadsheet toolkit as data analysts. You do not need to memorize everything in Excel or Google Sheets, specifically around functions and formatting. All I want you to do is start thinking about being curious with data. How do you start finding patterns? How do you start asking questions? How do you start using your tools to help you answer those questions? How do we start using conditionals, aggregations, lookups, right? See how that's proto coding and databases, right? And visualizations. A lot of that is really important. Most analysts for the first time encounter real data in a spreadsheet. You need to be able to make your way through one and understand how the benefits and pros, but also the cons and limitations at scale and automation. Spreadsheets are where many data analysis workflows begins. That's our big idea. Excel is everywhere in a business. You will always be using it, no matter how much you want to code or use business intelligence tools. You need to know your way around an Excel spreadsheet. Low barrier to entry and very high reach. Typically, everybody from your stakeholders to your analysts know how to use it. Make sure you understand the fundamentals around cells, ribbons, selecting data, auto-fitting columns, all that good stuff. How do we make data readable and digestible? We do that by cleaning it, by formatting it, using colors, using number formats. And again, a lot of that will also translate into visualization and coding. Formulas turn spreadsheets into an analysis engine. Again, this is our proto coding as well. How do we make these data analyses dynamic, right? How do instead of manually calculating things, we quickly calculate lots of numbers and lots of metrics at scale and then quickly compare them against each other, such as the average to the median to look for skew, right? Not only can these functions help us do analysis quickly, it can also help us answer very common questions quickly, such as what is total revenue? What is the average expense? Is there an outlier here, right? What is the maximum value in terms of my sales? And again, these questions will hopefully drive more questions. That's the beauty of data analysis, right? How do you become curious of your data? We talked about references and different ways of customizing the dynamicness of a formula, whether we're altering every row and column every time or just one or the other. We talked about data cleaning. How do we clean our data so we have a trustworthy output, garbage in, garbage out, especially with text data sets. Filtering and sorting helps you find interesting patterns faster, right? It also helps you find patterns easier as well. And then again, the power of aggregations, taking large data sets, aggregating them down into smaller leaderboards where you can quickly digest what they're trying to tell you, mostly in terms of patterns, counts, averages, etc. Right? How do we summarize data, not just explore it, right? Sure, I want to know my max and my min, but I really want to summarize and group my data by specific categories. Sales by region, counts by customer type, trends over time. These are all aggregations that can be done with the power of pivot tables, or when we get into pandas, just your regular group by functions. And as I've kind of reiterated a lot today, Excel prepares you for real data analysis tools and automation at scale, including Python, SQL, and business intelligence, right? We talked about how VLOOKUPs map to SQL, Pivot tables connected group bys and aggregations, right? Charts and visualizations track directly to business intelligence, right? Excel is not the journey. Typically, it's the beginning of your data analysis workflows, which again is why it's in module two. When you learn Excel well, you learn to ask questions, to be curious, and the logic behind data analysis. Python, SQL, and BI tools will give you a way to scale and automate those workflows, but the core thinking starts with Excel. As I mentioned, everything connects. Data analysis is a workflow. We always have to get data, clean and format the data, aggregate the data, visualize the data, and then summarize and interpret whatever patterns we're trying to identify here. You don't need to memorize everything in Excel. How do we take raw data and how do we start asking questions of it that can drive analytical insights downstream and take that data, make it useful, and then how do we apply that same logic at scale with functions, formulas, and visualizations? A spreadsheet is not just a place to store data, it's a place to analyze it. How do we answer real business questions without code? And once we can clean, filter, calculate, summarize, and pivot data in Excel, we can really use that as a foundation for a automated, bigger data workflow, enterprise scale workflow in terms of analytical projects. When we get into Python, SQL, and dashboarding, it's all going to build on these same foundations. Again, the core analytics workflow, load the data, clean the data, ask questions, be curious, summarize the results, and communicate your findings back to stakeholders. And that really is what data analysts do in their real world. Like I mentioned, everything is already in my GitHub. I'll update these with the data sets as well as the live session materials. And as always, I will post this video to YouTube and Zoom and share it within our IBM campus. So hopefully this was a good recap of where we were at in week two. I think I'm going to finish off the whole boot camp. I'm going to back record week one as well. So look for that this week. It's been my pleasure, of course, to again guide you through the boot camp here. And if you're just watching this and starting out, you got 8 more weeks of awesome content ahead of you. Hopefully, this has been helpful. Hopefully, you ask questions in the forums or in the comments or reference some of the materials in my GitHub as you go. And I will see you all in the next video. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Have a great night and have a good weekend. Thank you for watching. Cue the outro music. Do, 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 do. All right. Bye, everybody.